Hello, how are you guys doing? So, basically this week I got just a bunch, you may be tired of hearing about the Apple M1 chip and Apple Silicon, but I have some final thoughts and then I'll leave it alone until inevitably the next time Apple releases more computers with their own CPUs. Alright, this is probably going to be the best I'm going to get, and I should probably just do this now before my battery dies. So, a few updates about, some of my thoughts on the Apple Silicon M1 chips. First of all, I was right what I said in my first video ever about Apple Silicon back in June or July or whatever that was, when I said that, I think I said something to the effect of, I think that there's a good chance that Apple Silicon Macs will perform better than similar, comparable Intel-based Macs, because I'm confident in Apple's ability to engineer their hardware and software together. They have quite a bit of experience, over a decade, doing it with iPhone, right? They build the CPUs for their iPhones. They build the software, the operating system for their iPhones. They engineer both of those together to work with each other to provide better performance better performance than what you think based on the specs, right? If you just look at the number of cores and the amount of RAM and all that on an iPhone as compared to a flagship Android phone, it looks like the iPhone has significantly lower specs, but the iPhone will often perform as good as or better than the Android flagships with more because because Apple has engineered the hardware and the software together. And we're seeing that with the Apple M1. The new Mac Mini and the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro all seem to be functioning better than or just as good as equivalent Intel-based Macs. And that's great, that's huge, because it proves that Apple can do that same thing with their CPUs, and with their computer CPUs, that they can with their phone CPUs. And then the other big thing is that Apple's software translation layer, the Rosetta 2 or whatever it's called, is a lot better than anyone expected it to be. See, the thing is with software emulation layers, emulating one type of architecture on a different type of architecture, usually it'll have to translate the instructions entirely, emulate whatever architecture those instructions were supposed to run on completely in software. But Apple built compatibility into the physical hardware of their new M1 chips to be able to run key instructions from software written for the Intel-based Macs. But they built that directly into the CPUs. So the Rosetta 2 translation layer doesn't have to do nearly as much work. So it's a lot more performance than you would expect from a traditional emulation layer, I guess. Which is great. It's really exciting. I'm glad to see ARM-based desktop chips, because that's not something we've really, desktop and laptop chips, because that's not something we've really seen except for, and I was wrong about this in my original Apple Silicon video, there have been ARM-based laptop chips before, but they were all in the Microsoft Surface stuff, and nobody cared about them because they're not good, right? And a little side note about that, apparently someone has gotten Windows, like Windows on ARM, like hacked it to work on a Mac, an M1 Mac, and I think it actually runs better on the M1 Macs than it does on Microsoft's own ARM-based CPUs, because Windows on ARM is Microsoft's ARM chips are not great. I'll just say that. So that was kind of funny. Yeah, I'm even more excited now that we've seen how this stuff performs in the real world. I'm excited for, a couple generations down the line, once Apple gets its feet on the ground with this stuff and gets some experience doing it on this kind of scale. I'm excited to see what kind of things they can pull off, what kind of power they can fit into very small packages for the MacBook Pro series. I'm really excited what they can do for that. All right, guys, I'm going to end it here. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, turn on notifications to be notified when I post new videos, and see you in the next one.